Welcome friends, survivors. We're here back in 7 Days to Die, of course, and I have a guide for you that hopefully will help you with your base building, but to some degree your home building in general. Whether you're new to the game or you're experienced, working with electricity is a great part of the game. And if you haven't used it before, follow along and learn a thing or two. If you're experienced, well, maybe I missed something. Maybe you can share some of your tips and tricks. Electricity is mainly used for your home and your base building. It covers aspects such as lighting, having automatic doors, but a big focus is of course with how to deal with zombies and specifically killing them and keeping you safe. It could be triggering an alarm when they're sighted, it could be using electrical traps to kill them, or even automatically closing doors or opening doors that you want when they are spotted. And of course, if it's zombies, it could work on fellow players as well. I will be splitting this into parts because there's so much to cover. We're going to start off with some of the basics and work our way up. We're going to cover the skills and the perks needed to craft and benefits of them. Once we're clear on the skills, we're going to transition into how to craft and hook it up, and some ways to work with electricity to make it a bit easier. So sit back and listen in, and you can always rewind if something is unclear when I hook it up, but it should be fairly straightforward. As always, my videos are all free, but I would ask you a favor to make sure to subscribe if you like the video. I do get a ton of views, but taking that extra few seconds to subscribe and give it a thumbs up on my video, it really does help me out as a small content creator. And this so I can continue to provide all this content for you in the game. Of course, check out my Twitter and follow me. Join me in my Discord. But let's just start with the basics. So let's here bring up the perks, and we have the intellect attribute. Important. This is the one you want to care about if you want to make your electrical items. Not that you need to make them, you can actually buy them at the traders fairly often. We go down to advanced engineering. You see I've unlocked all of it, obviously because I've been doing that before. But look at this perks here. We have 1 through 5. First and second actually does not allow you to do any electrical items at all. It allows you to do the forges, you have the workbenches and stuff like that, but it's at 3. Electrician, inventor, and advanced engineer, they actually start being able to make them. And it's fairly important to keep some of these things in mind because there are some unlocks at level 3. There are some more at level 4 and a couple at level 5. Beyond that, if you look, it also says that gain 20% experience from electrical trap kills, which is important if you're using them from base defenses. It also says that forge recipes cost less and crafting forged steel and electrical devices cost less as well. So the more you have, the less it actually costs to craft some of these things. So keep that in mind. But specifically what's in here, let's have a look at the XML itself, because you can't actually see where you craft, let's say, the blade traps or the shotgun turrets or the speaker or the motion sensor. It doesn't say that here anymore. It's just very general. So let's look in the XML. So here we have the extract from the XML. It's the intellect craftsmanship perk. So if you look, it says advanced engineering, and you see the different levels 1 through 5. It has a lot of information here, so I'm going to go through some of the key ones. For instance, that in order to unlock level 1, you need to have attribute level 1. And if I show that, attribute level 1 out of 10, this is what it refers to. If you want to get to level 2, you need to have intellect perk level 4, 3 means 6, 4 means 8, and 5 means 10. Now, what does this actually entail? But if you look here, this is where it shows it. So this is the recipe tag unlocked for 1, unlocks the forge. For 2 out of 5, unlocks the workbench, table, saw, and cement mixture. But the interesting thing here is level 3, which is the, again, as I showed, the electrician. Let me show this here. It allows you to get the generator bank, relay, switch, lights, and all those things. Really nice. At least get the number 3, really important. At 4, it unlocks some more things like the battery bank, shotgun turret, let's see here, garage door, the power things, really nice. And on 5, unlocks the auto turret. So number 5 is not as important actually, at least get up to 4 or 3 at the very least. Now also keep in mind, as I mentioned, 3 gives you 20% XP from electrical trap kills, 4 gives you 35%, 5 gives you 50%. So if you're doing a really trap heavy base, having it all the way up to 5 is really useful. However, you don't necessarily have to craft all these things because you can actually buy them at the traders. But let's assume you want to craft them. Let's go to my vanishing workbench here, and we go to, I believe it's a science one, which will show you a bunch of things. Not all these ones are electrical items, but some of them are. But let's start off the first thing you want to do, and that's the wire tool. The wire tool is needed in order to hook things up, so make sure you craft one of this. Really important. It just requires some steel and some mechanical parts. Now you can look through the whole list of what you can craft. Let's say the blade trap. All the resources needed here. You can also see what the unlock is. It only says advanced engineering. It doesn't say the level, so that's where the XML comes in handy. And of course a description. You'll see the dart trap, for instance, electrical fence post, timer relay, and everything. So you just have to go through and craft some of these things, and depending on what you want to do, it will require different amounts of resources in the different types. Let's say the auto turret requires some handgun parts, oil, etc. Shotgun turret requires some shotgun parts, etc. So just go here to have a look at what you actually want to craft and what resources it requires. If it is still unlocked, or rather if it's still locked so you can't craft it, even with the items it will still be grayed out. So you have to make sure that you have perked up sufficiently. But as I said, the first thing you want to do is the generator, because that one is really the start of it. So if you don't craft it, you can go and buy it at the trader. So we're going to take it here, right click to put it down, and you hit E to interact. Now you can see it has 0 gas, no output, no power. So we're going to put in an engine. Engines you can loot them occasionally, but generally you just wrench cars and you'll end up finding one. You can also refuel it, of course, get some fuel in there. It will last a fair while, depending on what the power expenditure is. Max output is 50 per engine, so if I put in 2, it's going to be 100. So we're going to turn it on, and see, it has the smoke coming out, and you can hear the sound as well. Good. So you need something to do with this one. So what are we going to do? Let's start with a basic light bulb here. Get rid of these ones for now. So let's say you have your house and you want to have a light because you think that I don't want to have these torches. Torches add heat. So you can call in screamers, and maybe you don't want that. So you pick up your wire tool in your hand and you right click on the generator. You see it connects the cable. As long as the cable is black or gray, you can actually connect it. If I pull it out here till it's red, I can't actually connect it because, well, it's red. It doesn't allow me to do anything. So make sure it's black. Then you just point to this one that says 5 watt, but it's grayed out. Right click, and you see it's connected, and because this one was already on, it immediately turns on. Now if I hit E, it switches off. Hit E, it switches back on, and you see the yellow 5 watt means that it's now drawing the power. If you have the wire tool in your hand, you'll see that it shows where the power connections are, which can be fairly useful later on when you're trying to troubleshoot things. Easy, right? There's a few more types of light that you can have. You have this light as well. Let's put one of these, and you have this one, which is fairly nice for having, let's say, over your workbench, for instance. And then you have this one, which is the spotlight. Spotlight is a little bit different, and let's put it like this for now. But the way you hook it up is very standard. Let's say I right click on my generator, and I right click on this one, and it turns on. Really nice. Let me make it a little bit darker here, so that we can really see these lights. See how nice it is? If I turn it off with E, it gets dark, obviously. A little about this one. So this one, I can continue hooking them from the generator. However, each electrical point can only have 9 outputs at max. So you might not necessarily want to do that. So let's say I want to hook it from here. Right click on this one and right click to this one. And now this one is on. I can turn this off, but this one will still be on because the power is still flowing through. Downside, of course, is that if this one is broken, this one goes off because, well, it doesn't have any power anymore. So you have to keep that in mind when you're hooking things up. If you're chaining things together, make sure it's not going to be destroyed, because then you lose the power, which is important when you're working with traps later on. So this looks pretty alright, but we have all these ugly wires. So let's look at something else. For one, if I want to turn everything off, I can go to individual and turn them off, or I can go turn off the whole generator. Obviously, it gets really dark. But what if I want to turn off these things, but I don't want to turn off everything? Let's say I want to have these two running all the time, but I want to turn this on and off. You can do that manually, but imagine that if, let's say I have 2 of this one, like this, and then these ones are chained. Nice. But if I want to turn this one off, I have to turn off both, but that's where you have the switch. A switch can be really, really useful. So let's do this. Let's put in a switch here instead and see if I can Let's do that. I put down a switch, and instead of hooking directly, I go from the generator to the switch. Now you see, it's red, which means that there is some power. If I turn this one off, you see it's basically grayed out. There's no power flowing at all. So let's make sure we turn this on. Then we connect from the switch. Again, right click to this one. Everything went off. Why? Because the switch is off. If I then flick the switch, they turn on. Flick the switch, and it turns off again. And this allows you to sort of control the different parts of your base, because these two I can turn off and on when I'm working at the workbench, and these two are on all the time. Useful, right? What if let's say I have my spotlight here. So I connect this one from here. It's a little bit of a separate way of working because it's a different kind of light. Now turn this on. Nice, right? It has a nice sort of cone of light here. Now you hit E to turn on and off, or you hold E to actually get into this one, which has a command aim. What's this? Block command aim. It gives you camera preview. It's a little bit weird. It should say light preview. But you left click here and you can turn it. So you can show where you want to have the light, and let's say I want to have it this way. Escape out, and you see now it's turned this way. So you can actually decide where the spotlight is shown. So, or showing the light or lighting up. So it's really useful for your base, either outside or inside. Another thing, let's say I want to connect this little light out here. So I take it from the generator, I go over here and try to connect, and nothing is happening. It's like red. Okay, so I back up and it's black. I try to connect, nothing happening still. Is it broken? What's happening? It's because the distance is too long. The wires can be a maximum of 14. So what do you do? Now in this case I could hook it up to this one, but what if I want to have it independent? Bit of a problem, right? That's why we have the wire relay. So let's put in a wire relay. Let's put it here. So what I do here, I take it from the generator. I go to the wire relay. The wire relay, it has power. It's 0 watt, but it's yellow. And I connect the light. So now it works. A wire relay is basically just a relay. It's a point to bounce off so that the cables can reach where you want it to be. It can be really useful for having, let's say you want to have it look nicer. So I put one, say up here. I connect there. And I connect there to here. And I connect here to this relay. So I no longer have wires that are going just wherever they are. And I can actually connect here to here as well, so that you don't have ugly wires just going crisscrossing across your base. The downside of course, this one, it only takes 0 watt. That's weird. It used to take 1 watt. The downside is, of course, it can be a little bit ugly if you have this everywhere, but on the other hand, it makes it look really neater with the wires. So then what is the electric timer relay? It's a special case. So let's say I put this one here. So I connect the timer relay to the normal relay, and I connect the spotlight to it. And it flick and it's on, right? Really good. But what this one basically means is that you hit E, it has a start time and an end time. So if we're looking at the time here, it's 0033. And if I change this one to 1 AM, you see it's now turned off. There is no light. If I hold E, nothing happens because it's still off. I can't even go into it because it says you have to power the component to use the camera function. What does that mean? It means that it will only turn on at 1 AM, but let's bring it back to 030. Now this one, as if by magic, is actually working. Really useful. So what do you do with this one? Normally I will have such that, for instance, instead of connecting this one directly to the lights, I will connect them to timer relay, so that I go like this, and then I go from here to this, such that I will then tune it to, let's say it starts by 9 PM and it ends by, let's say, 5 AM. So it's nighttime, we have the light on. If I go to, let's say, daytime, all the lamps switch off. So it's not using any power because, well, you have the sun out. You don't really need any normal lights. And if we go back to the evening, then nothing happens. Okay, it works again. I had accidentally put down the timer relays instead of the normal relay. And one of the differences is that the timer relay takes 0 watt even when active. The normal relay takes 1 watt. So because they look almost the same on the icon, this one has a small little timer there. It's really easy to get them wrong like I just did. Don't do that. So this one transmits power all the time. And does it look... I see there's a small little timer there as well. Okay, I missed that out before. So make sure you use the correct timer as well. But now, nighttime, we have light, which is exactly what we want it to be. So we've now shown 2 ways of turning on and off things. We can use the switch or we can use the timer relay, but there are more. Let's look at the trigger plates, which is the 1x1 or 5x1, and they work exactly the same way. So whether you put this one or this one doesn't really matter because they work identical. Let's get rid of this one for now. So let's say you want to have, let's do this. You want to have light when you're standing in front of the workbench. So let's take here, I take from the generator to the trigger plate. Trigger plate, I go up to the light here. Okay. You see it's shifted the input because you can only have input from one place, but this one remains because, well, I was there. So nothing on. I walk up here. It goes on because this one has been triggered. I step off and it goes off. You can hear that the slight click as it goes on off. So this one is really useful, not necessarily for lights, but for traps later on. And if I put this one, it works exactly the same. The big one is just 5 times bigger. So let's do this. On, off, right? Really useful. But there are more. We also have the tripwire. The tripwire is actually fairly useful for trap firing, especially dart traps. The way it works is that you take the power to the first tripwire post. There it goes. Then you go from the first tripwire post to the second. And you see 1 watt. It does take a little bit of power, unfortunately, but then you connect that one to, let's say, this one. So if I walk on and you see this one has this purple black, which shows that this is the way it's flowing. It's important that input goes there, output goes from this side. Really important. If you try to take output from there, it's not going to help you. So if I walk on it, you hear this slight swish. And that means that activated and the lights goes on. I go off, go on. Another feature of these ones, and it's on this side, if you hold it, it has some selections here. 1, should it transmit power instantly or after a while? Let's do instantly. But it also shows the power duration. Should it be just when triggered or should it have some additional timing? Set at 5. And a lot of these things, including, let's say this one, the trigger plates, they also have it. The switch obviously does not because it's just switch on and off. But it means that if I go on here, turns on, I go off, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it goes off. Really useful because it means that you can set this to 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and it will transmit power for a while longer. So the tripwires can be really powerful for turning things on and off. But there's one more, and the last one, which is the motion sensor. Let's say I put, let's remove this one, and this one is just in the way. Let's set the motion sensor here. Motion sensor is sort of a special case for how it works, but let's pull some power here. And you see the yellow is where it's actually aiming. If I go up to it and I hit E to interact, I have multiple selectors here. Firstly, let's look at the camera preview. Camera preview is where it's aiming. Let's aim it towards my ladder here. So we do something like this. Escape to go out. Then we say here, it should be triggering immediately when it sees something, and after it can see what it is, let's do 5 seconds of power duration. So it means that it gets triggered, it will work for, let's do 3 seconds. Here you have the targeting. So if it's yellow, it's targeting. If it's gray, it does not. So it can target self, it can target allies, strangers, or zombies. Normally you would do it for zombies, but I'm just going to do a basic for myself because that allows me to test it out. And you'll see it's actually seeing me here. If I move over, it's not seeing me. If I'm here, see, it's actually tracking me while I'm in this area, and it can't track me anymore. Really nice. So what we're going to do with this one? Well, you could connect, for instance, to, let's take this lights. I come up, light goes on, stays on for 3 seconds and goes off. Well, it's fairly useful. Not super useful, but you know, it can be a little bit useful for your lights. Something that is more interesting is if you're having it outside of your base. Let's say I have this one. Ooh, nice. Looks like a speaker, right? Well, because it is. So let me connect that one to here as well. So what happens is that I come up, something comes up, well, me or a zombie, and the alarm goes on. And it will be running for 3 seconds after I've been outside of this trigger area. If I want to do 5 seconds, I can, and it'll be 5 seconds, and the light is going to be on. So you could imagine that doing that in outside of your base, or sort of in your courtyard, where you have a motion sensor checking, you have your spotlights covering, so that if it sees a zombie, the spotlight will turn on, the speaker will go on, and you can rush to your base and say, hey, there's something there, and you go and actually go and shoot them. And then, of course, because it's been shot, everything will turn off. And then you're good until the next time. For instance, could be waiting for Screamer to come in. It's a fairly efficient way of making an alarm system. But there's just so much more of the electricity. I've gone through some of the basic items which should allow you to get started, how to put some lights, switches, motion sensors, trigger plates and everything. A speaker and a switch, obviously, and the generator bank. But there's a lot more. You could, for instance, have your battery bank. There's even solar power. There's the powered garage doors and vault hatches and everything, and the turrets and the traps and everything. So we're definitely going to spend more time with that. And just a teaser, solar bank and solar cells are a little bit of special cases here because you can't actually craft them, unfortunately. You can only buy them at the trader, and they're really expensive. The solar bank is like 2,000–3,000. The solar cells is something between 10 and 50,000, so they're really expensive. More of a late game thing, but it does give you an alternate way to have power. Battery banks also do that. Next time I'm going to go through more of these advanced items that you can put down, how you actually to use this one, and we're going to follow up with all the traps as well, so you can know how to put them into your base in order to defend it. Also going to go through some tips and tricks. If you have any from your experience, do leave them in comment below, and I might be adding them to the video as well. Thanks for watching, thanks for liking the video, and thanks for subscribing. I'll see you again.
Special thanks to the great patrons supporting the channel. If you would like to join the vetted community and support these videos, do follow the Patreon link.